Good evening and welcome to COVID-19 Watch, Forward Stronger. I am your host, Stephen Duncan, and it gives me great pleasure to be able to moderate these discussions and to have you join us. In tonight's COVID-19 Watch finale, we venture into a dynamic and spirited conversation about a promising sector in Belize, the creative industries. With us tonight to discuss this topic are Ms. Sapna Budrani, President of NICH. Hi, welcome, Sapna.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Mr. Andre Pitts, Creative Director at Colorblind. Welcome, Andre.
Good night. Thanks for having me.
Nice to have you on the other side of the camera. Mr. Ronaldo Malik, promoter at M3 Entertainment. Welcome, Ronaldo.
Nice, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us. And I just want to remind the viewers, as usual, to be sure to jump into the conversation. You may post your questions in the comment section on Colorblind's Facebook page. So, let me first begin tonight by defining what we mean by creative industries. Creative industries refer to those industries which have their origin in individual creativity, skill, and talent, and which have a potential for wealth and job creation through the generation and exploitation of intellectual property. Examples of creative industries are music, design, publishing, architecture, film and video, crafts, visual arts, fashion, TV and radio, advertising, literature, computer games, and the performing arts. More recently, the creative industries, also referred to as the orange economy, and this is because orange is a dominant color for culture, creativity, and identity. The creative and cultural industries are one of the fastest growing sectors globally. My first question tonight is, do you believe that we see the true economic potential of the creative industries in Belize? And I guess I could start with that question, maybe asking Sapna to being at NICH. Would you like to share with us, I mean, to what extent you see that we are really enabling such an industry, and is it, are we getting the true economic potential of it?
Good night again. Thank you for having me. I guess I go first.
Yes.
Because the cap I wear. To answer your question, I think whenever we think of creative industry and to think of the true economic impact,
Yeah.
we eventually get to it. We're not there as yet, but gradually would get there. We would need investment in this industry.
Okay.
And policy development to see the true economic impact of this industry in Belize.
And that would be, what do you think in terms of the investment, Sapna? In what, give me a little example of like what kind of area you're talking about in investment.
Similar to how we have policies development and we have the financial institutions supporting the micro, small businesses.
Yes.
Would need similar investments, one from financial institutions, and they need to understand the business of the creative economy. The creative industry, the cultural and creative industry may not have a monthly income, but it may have an income dependent on the events or what they support or what activity they're involved in. So those financial institutions need to understand how the creative economy and the cultural economy can work.
Okay.
investment from the government's standpoint, where similar to where we've reached out to IDB and the different ISIs to support the structural development in the country, especially with road building, we need a similar push for the creative and cultural industry. If we have the support of the wider government and the various ministries, then we would be able to grow this industry to the potential that it can. And based on research and based on just looking at creative industry, it usually blooms whenever we have a negative impact. That industry does not stop growing. You still have growth in that industry, but we do see the risk and the investments from the financial institutions and government bodies, um, and easier access to finance. To say that the government can support it and to start that discussion with these institutions.
Got
We
you.
also need the infrastructural investment to the digital and cultural platform.
Could I ask then, Ronaldo, I see as a promoter, you would certainly be in the trenches, so to speak, and certainly an area that I think would be significantly affected by COVID. As a promoter, you probably need masses. You need people to be able to to be able to perform your trade, so to speak. Where do you see this support needed that you think could help the industry to become more, I don't know if effective is the right word, or to be able to generate that economic benefit that we are talking about?
Well, I think that this quote unquote new world order
Yes.
demands that transformation in the industry, from the industry, in every aspect, whether it's us as promoters or whether you're talking about the artists, the Belizean artists themselves. It really places the onus on the artists to transform themselves. This is something that, as promoters and perhaps Sapna will agree with me, Niche and Ika have been pushing Belizean artists to brand themselves digitally. I know that in my past experience at Beltrade has engaged the industry in teaching artists how to develop themselves and market themselves, make themselves more marketable.
Yeah.
This is what this like I said, this new world order is going to demand. We're going to have to find ourselves put ourselves in different positions to be successful without depending on having an event that requires 3,000 or 5,000 people to show up in person. The whole concept of live is being redefined.
Gotcha.
Reggae Sum Fest, which is one of the largest annual music festivals in Jamaica, and was just last week. And normally, I don't know how many thousands of, I would say tens of thousands of people show up to that event on an annual basis, but they just had to redo them. They just did themselves online, virtually, this last week, 2 nights, very similar to what they would have done in reality, but they embraced the new virtual reality. I found myself engaged watching them on Facebook live yesterday for upwards of about 5 hours. And so what it does is that during this stage that we find ourselves in, it is not only an opportunity for us to do things differently, but it's also an opportunity for us to market. Because although I've always intended to attend a Reggae Sum Fest, I never had the opportunity to do so. But watching it virtually yesterday has caused me to maybe bring it up several spaces on my bucket list to make sure that I'm able to get there when outside is reopened.
Yes,
right?
yes,
But
yes.
coming back to Belize and where it puts us is, I think that hole that has always been there in terms of our local artists not being able to market themselves online and virtually I think that the demand, it makes you have to do it now.
All right,
As I
gotcha.
look around, I consider myself to be very active on social media, along with people like Andre. But the amount of local artists that I see, one on social media, and two being active, engaging their audience, putting out. It doesn't have to necessarily be new music, but sometimes it's just as the younger kids say, spitting a few bars just to keep people engaged.
All right,
Uh,
good, thanks.
what your skill set is,
Yeah.
what your level of skill is, right? What you bring to the table, showing your versatility a little bit. Walking out to the park and shooting a little a 2 or 3 minute segment out at the park, singing your favorite song, covering somebody's favorite song, stuff like that.
All right.
I don't see that, and that's what is going to be very much needed now.
Okay, thanks. And Andre, in that context, then, what is being done, would you say, Andre, to create an enabling environment for creatives to thrive?
Well, good night and thanks for the question. I'm unable to speak from a public policy perspective in terms of what people like Ms. Bodrani may be doing at niche. But I do have the opportunity to speak about what we do here at Colorblind.
Excellent.
And really, we try to leverage the investment we've already been able to make in physical infrastructure in terms of our modern state-of-the-art studio with sophisticated lighting, audio, and video equipment. In addition to our human capital, we have a team of young creatives, graphic artists, sound and video editing masters. We have upcoming talent with us on our team that we are nurturing. And so with that foundation already set, what we try to do is to collaborate with independent creatives. So in terms of contributing to an environment for creatives to thrive, we know that capital is something that holds a lot of people back.
Yes.
So since we have already made that investment and take the leak, we try to work with the other creators because while our goal is to have Belize be flooded with high quality local content, we do not have to be the ones creating it. We really can't do it all on our own,
Yes.
but we will still be very proud if the people that we are able to partner with them having access and use of our infrastructure, are able to put out that quality content. And that is how we, as a private entity, try to contribute to the creative industry here in Belize.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, these things they're huge investments. When I look at your studio and the facilities you have in place,
That's correct.
it is important that you do generate revenue because you need to pay back for those things, to be able to afford them. So I mean, maybe I can ask Sapna then. Sapna, and Andre said he's not part of the policy making body, and so maybe you can help us then. What could are you aware of anything being done that could maybe generate or create an enabling environment for creatives to thrive? Because it seems as we talk that it is not that easy for the creatives to thrive, so to speak, to be able to convert their skill and talent to money, to monetize their talent, their gifts. What is being done, if anything, about that?
Okay, prior to COVID-19, Niche had launched a cultural development fund. We launched that prior to COVID-19. That was a way in which we would have assisted creatives to creating that enabling environment for creatives so that we could have provided the financing that may be required for their projects.
Okay.
That was prior to COVID-19. In addition to that, from then to now, we still have capacity building sessions throughout our houses of culture and our 4 different institutes that we have at the National Institute of Culture and History.
Okay.
We also work with the community. We try to have a community-based approach where we work with the communities to understand what they would like to do and see how best we can partner or find partners for them. To create an enabling environment, we need support from the entire country. It is not a one organization process. Like Andre had mentioned, as a private institution, they've made investments to assist in that enabling environment. So if each one of us can assist, we would be able to create a better enabling environment. We've also discussed with other ministries and other government agencies. We've had a good relationship with Beltrade, and we're also in discussion with the Ministry of Trade, in which we would like to be able to create more capacity building sessions and sessions in which we can inform the stakeholders on what are the processes involved if you wanted to import or export your trade, because it could work either way. And we need to start thinking of the creative industry as one that can be exported. It's not only to be consumed by our people in Belize. So we have been working on all of those activities. Something that Mitch had launched in 2016 was was a national cultural policy. In 2016, that was launched, and that includes some of these activities in there. And it states about the work that we need to do together. It's about partnership and community building, not just one entity.
Okay, thanks you. Reynaldo, I need to come back to that example you gave us on the reggae festival. Do you have any idea how do they make money from that? I heard you sit in your living room and enjoy it. Now, that is good for you, but what about the artists and the promoters moving from having thousands of people at your event where they pay X dollars to get in to where you switch on a television and you now begin to watch the artist? Any idea? I mean, because if this is how we will see things happen in the future, I'm sure everybody has to be thinking, well, yeah, but how do I make money from this? Has to be at the top of the list. You're on mute, I think, Reynaldo.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. How to monetize
Exactly.
the virtual event is, I would think, probably above and beyond anything else you have on the list of considerations when you're putting this together, right? But although I saw several hours of it or caught several hours of it on, like you said, in my living room, the fact of the matter is that they didn't show all of it. They showed the segments that are designed to catch the viewer's attention and then potentially lead me to saying, you know what, I want to see the entire thing. I want to see the entire 2 nights. So I'm going to go pay a fee to get either a download link or the ability to watch this. Similar to, it's probably in the Apple Store, in iTunes, it's probably on Amazon. And so I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention here that there is a local promotion company that is getting set to do exactly the same thing here in Belize. Excellent. In August. And they're going to be promoting all Belizean artists in different genres, of course. Yes. But they're going to be emphasizing the local culture, the paranda, the punta, etc. I think it's a very worthwhile endeavor, and I think, as I said earlier, it's a chance for us to showcase not only the individual entertainers, but it's going to be a chance for us to showcase the country. Mm-hmm. And being that as I like to say, my bills are actually paid by working in the hospitality industry, yes. in the resort industry. Yes. I think that's a major thing, because in the same way that I put going to Reggae Some Fest up several notches on my bucket list, I'm sure that when these guys get through promoting their virtual series and the country of Belize, that it's going to elevate coming to Belize on the bucket list of travelers around the globe.
All right, good, thank you. Andre, culture tourism has added value to Belize's tourism product. How can we expand upon that? For example, we see the income being generated from carnivals and festivals in other countries, right? They have developed products and branded them and successfully marketed these events globally. Everybody wants to go to Trinidad Carnival. Belize doesn't seem to be able to monetize our cultural events on some grand scale, some larger scale. And don't limit it to, I'm just using the carnival as an example,
Yeah,
but just in
and
the
that's a great
context
example.
of, yeah,
That's a great example, and I actually put the onus on this one on citizens. Every year, tens of thousands of Belizeans line the streets to see the carnival,
yes,
but yet a lot of money does not go into carnival because people treat it as free entertainment. They watch the carnival, but they don't contribute in any way.
yes,
I believe that if more people participated in Carnival, especially people with spending power, that would cause the quality of Carnival one to transcend. The quality would improve. There would be more events, and then Carnival can, instead of being a single main event on a Saturday with a poorly attended after party, it could be a grand event that spans several days. And so what that does, that would cause the product to improve. And when you have an improved product, you are then in a better position to be able to market this
yes,
product to people outside of Belize.
yes,
If you have Carnival as a Saturday evening or a Saturday afternoon event and then it ends, if I lived in California or in Trinidad, I would not want to spend money to have fun for a few hours. So if it was a 5-day string of events, that would be a better product to market. And so I believe that it starts with more local participation in Carnival, which would see the quality of Carnival improve, the product would be improved, and I believe that would make it more attractive. And then that is one example of a cultural product that we can better capitalize on.
excellent. Miss Sapna, we're talking about trying to get stronger interest shown in these things and at the same time to be able to generate income from them. A lot of people live off these things and they need to be able to survive. And so, do you think that we have adequate legislations in place to protect the intellectual property of creatives?
We do have legislations in place, but it is if we're educating or if we're educated about the legislations that are in place. I think that would be more the appropriate question because we have many conventions that we've signed on to.
Yes.
WIPO is the organization that's mainly responsible for the IP and WIPO. But I don't think we have the education process to the level that we should.
And I suspect neither do we have the enforcement capability as well.
Yes, we have done some workshops in collaboration with various ministries again, but I think we need to do more
Yes.
collectively.
And that is really you're trying to then suggest, Sapna, that in fact educate the wider public so that they're prepared to pay for the product?
It's both the wider public and also to whom the intellectual property belongs to.
Right.
There are certain individuals who may be producing a song but may not be registering it or following the formal process. In that, losing out. I don't know if you've noticed in Facebook, for instance, if we use someone else's music, it either takes us out or it mutes it. It's because that song has been protected.
Okay.
Similarly, we can do the same for our people, and it has been done, but not in all sectors involving the creative and cultural industry.
Yes. Okay. Reynaldo, in your area, how would you say that the pandemic, COVID-19, in what way has it been disruptive to you, and how do you adapt to this?
Well, I think that in terms of the local promotion industry, July is at an end. We're about to go into August.
Yes.
By now we would have had at least 5 major outdoor concerts in Belize already for the year.
Yes.
Right at the very start of the effect of the pandemic on Belize, there was supposed to be a very large, although very popular Jamaican artist was coming to Belize the following week, and that had to be indefinitely postponed.
Yes.
And I know, for instance, Flavors Entertainment, they have their annual anniversary that's in the summer. You have smaller promotions, like several of the more well-known personalities in the industry would normally have like huge birthday showdowns, so to speak, at either the clubs or one of the outdoor venues as well. So none of that has happened. And then as you look forward, we're like 35 days away from September, our national month, or a month of revelry, where we celebrate Belize, we celebrate each other, despite the fact that things like, say, for instance, the Carnival is not a huge individual draw. We do have almost a month-long calendar of events, and that normally attracts people coming into the country, particularly Belizeans living abroad. September has long been known as the month that people mark down on their calendar and say, I'm going home for at least 2 to 3 weeks to enjoy Belize and be with my family, etc. So basically it's blown up anything and everything that has become known as the entertainment calendar for Belize. Everything has just completely gone through the window. One very popular DJ personality did move onto the online platform very early in the lockdown, and that was very successful. But one of your earlier questions was, how do we monetize this? And I saw that individual tried to move to a paid platform at one point, and I can only assume it didn't quite work out because he had to move back to the open platform. But I do believe that he's able to gain revenue from sponsors. I see the BTB logo. I see a lot of individual businesses. A couple of the DJs that he featured in his online shows reached out to me through my company that I run, Moyono Resorts, and so I individually sponsored. And when I asked them, how is it set up, they said, okay, well, we're invited to participate, and then we can go get as many sponsors as we want for our segment, and that revenue goes to them. So that's why it's been working. And so they have been enjoying some revenue. And I see some of the artists on there as well. There's been some international interaction as well, Belizean DJs that live in the US, other parts of the other DJs as well around the world, from Barbados have participated. So it's been quite an interactive approach. But like I said before, the normal, what we would have been enjoying in the summer, that has just not materialized at all.
Yeah. Andre, the same question to you. You're more into video, TV production. How have you been? How disruptive has the COVID-19 and the pandemic been to your area?
Well, it has been very disruptive with a huge financial impact, of course. At Colorblind, our focus, or I should say our preferred focus, is on producing local programming for national television.
Got you.
And programming it's very expensive to put together the quality programming that we do. And so that requires large sponsors and partners. And of course, since a lot of businesses have been impacted by COVID-19, their marketing budgets have been cut, some of them entirely, and that directly impacts us.
Yes.
On the bigger picture, one of the exciting things that we undertook last year and we're hoping to build on this year was the See Belize channel, which was the first of its kind 24/7 dedicated tourism channel in Belize. Okay. that appealed to both a local audience, but more importantly, to an international audience, to have them be interested in the different attractions and the cultural experiences in Belize, to want to visit Belize, or if they are already here, to extend their stay in Belize. So that See Belize channel suffered a double whammy. On one hand, our partners were unable to commit to this year, 2020. Even 2021 might be not possible for them. Hope that's not the case. And on the other hand, like I said, one of our main audience were the international eyes that were on the channel. With our airports still closed as of now, I know Ronaldo must be making up his face on his camera, but with that still closed, of course, people are unable to come to Belize until August 15th or if the date changes. And so our Sea Belize channel suffered an untimely setback, and that has been one of our biggest impacts.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, our first commercial break is due now. So let me just ask the viewers to stay with us. We'll take a break for just a few ads. And when we return, we will continue our conversation. And we will also be fielding questions from our viewers. So please stay tuned. We will be right back. Welcome back to COVID-19 Watch, Forward Stronger. I am your host, Stephen Duncan, and I have been joined via video call by Ms. Sapna Budrani, President of Niche, Mr. Andrew Pitts, Creative Director at Colorblind, and Mr. Rinaldo Malik, Promoter for M3 Entertainment. I want to quote from a UNDP report titled How Cultural and Creative Industries Can Power Human Development in the 21st Century. The creative industries have become an increasingly important contributor to GDP growth. Data show over the past 15 years that the creative economy is not only one of the most rapidly growing sectors of the world economy, but also transformative in generating income, jobs, and exports. However, these gains are not equally distributed across the globe. Asia and the Pacific, Europe and North America are seeing rapid and unprecedented growth in the creative economy. These regions account for 93% of the global CCI revenue and 85% of jobs. By contrast, Africa, the Middle East, and Latin America and the Caribbean have not yet capitalized on their potential. For these regions, the CCCI represent untapped economic potential and a chance to contribute to the innovation economy and other sectors through supply chain effects. This is an opportunity for policies that accelerate and sustain a dynamic creative economy that contributes to human development progress. So, to the panelists, looking into the future, are you banking on things to return to normal in the creative industries post-COVID so that people can go back to enjoying the works of creatives in the traditional ways, such as going to concerts, theaters, dance, recitals, etc.? What are your thoughts there? Do you see things going back to the normal way after COVID? Well, I don't know who to start with. Maybe I should start with Sapna.
You always start at me first.
Yes.
Well, a couple of things though, Mr. Duncan. You had mentioned North America and Asia, if I'm not mistaken, with a 93%.
Yeah.
If we look at that very closely, they've invested heavily on this sector, and it has grown throughout a time. Like, it's not something that has recently been developed, but over the years. While in the Caribbean and Central America, it's something more recent.
Yeah.
Last 5 years. That's one thing that we must take note of. Secondly, they have been monetizing this industry way before Central America, the Caribbean, Latin America.
Yes.
We've just started looking at that, especially due to COVID-19. Earlier on in your question, where you asked if it has caused a disruption, and it has also been able to allow creatives to be creative and figure out how to tap into a new market.
Yes.
So back to Belize now, when we're speaking about going back to the normal, I don't think we have a normal as what we had before, but maybe an open door policy now where we can compete with all the countries around the globe with what we have with our culture and our creative industry. The animation industry is booming. So it's something that young artists can get involved in, and they can then compete with other artists internationally. What is important is us developing the capacity within the country. And we would end up tapping into new markets, not necessarily going back to the old markets,
Got you.
and monetize on it by registering our intellectual property and looking at various platforms in which we can monetize on it. In reference to the DJ that attempted to go on a new platform, remember some of the DJs are not using the music that they should be legally using it. So this allows for Belizean talent to be the focus. If you look at that same DJs, and I can make mention of it, of the Quarantine Bash. The Quarantine Bash featured many Belizean artists and entertainers, DJs. The Belizean artists had a platform to present their music.
Yes.
Their music was registered or it's somewhere online on YouTube. Like for instance, Super G Martinez, he has taken advantage of this and he has started already, where his music is on YouTube and he has over 100,000 views already to his songs.
Okay.
So if we utilize some of these platforms and look at the paid platform, then we can tap into that market. We should utilize this time to advertise. We can offer it on free platforms to advertise and to build the audience, but eventually monetize on it.
Yes.
I hope I answered your question.
I hope you see why I now start with you first.
Not yet.
Increasingly, though, the term creative and digital industries is being used in the developed world because of the importance of digital content and online services within the creative sector of the economy. The digital sector is one of the fastest growing sectors in the developed world. The COVID-19 pandemic was extremely disruptive to the creative industries and brought into focus even more the importance of technology and online services. So, what new ways of doing business has digital technology opened up for creatives? Do you believe this pandemic has served as accelerator to get the creative industries to where they ought to be? Reynaldo, how you think you could, what do you think about that?
Steve, could you repeat that question?
Yeah.
Sorry,
do you believe that this pandemic has served as an accelerator to get the creative industries to where they ought to be?
Well, it is, or it ought to serve as an accelerator. I believe, though, the better question is, are the people that are engaged in the industry, are we taking advantage of the opportunity that has presented itself? It ought to be an accelerator, right? I look at artists, Sapna referenced Super G. I also looked at artists like Lil June, who is from out of California, and as I guess I would refer to him as the pioneer of Afropunta. TikTok, which has become the newest social media sensation. There was a challenge on TikTok using Lil June's hit song, and that was participants from all over the world were engaging in that challenge. So I think it's called the OMG challenge or something like that. but this was a couple months back. But people from different countries, all the Central American countries, the Caribbean countries, Europe, everybody was engaging in that challenge, trying to duet it, and that's one of the TikTok fancy terms. So it's pushing us that way. It's trying to push us. But what comes to mind is the age-old saying is that you can lead the horse to water, but you can't necessarily force it to drink. And I think that's where we are. Here's the opportunity. The opportunity has presented itself. Who is going to take advantage of it is the next question that needs to be answered. People just need to jump in. They just need to jump in feet first, head first. It doesn't matter. You just need to get into it because you need to start somewhere. You just need to get started, period.
Okay, good. Andre, what would you say is the vision for your business within the creative industries? What is the plan going forward?
Well, certainly we would want to be more aggressive with what our core value is. Like I said, that is in launching new programming, original, high-quality programming that Belizeans can be proud of, and with a quality that can impress not only locals, but even people outside of Belize. But in addition to that, we would like to be also more purposeful in collaborating with other creators, because like I said, in terms of our core value, our intent is not to be able to boast that we are the sole master video creators in Belize. And of course, we can't do it all because of several limitations. But with the infrastructure that we have and our willingness to partner with people, we will still be very happy if an Emmy Award winning biopic or documentary on someone like, let's say, Honorable George Price was produced using just our microphones. Even then, we would be still very happy to have been a part of that process where Belizean creatives are able to thrive. And hopefully we can make a few dollars in the process, because we're unable to do any of this if we are completely broke.
All right, I have a question from social media, and based on the question, it seems that there's only one person who can answer it. And Sapna, that's you. What is the plan and contingency plans for this year's Carnival and September celebrations if social distancing will still be required?
Thank you, Mr. Duncan. You give me a very hard question. But before I answer
social media.
Before I answer that, I just wanted to make one point into the accelerator question, if I may, and ask for that for this time to make that little point, so that I don't lose the thought on that. When it comes to the accelerator, we also need the private funding and the funding from the various institutions to assist these creators in producing their content. What is important right now and what COVID-19 is showing us, like was mentioned earlier, it's showing us that there is room for growth, but we need to be able to develop and take advantage of it. And many of these creators may not have access to financing as others may have. So I think that is something important to put in there, that it requires that team effort for financing in that sector, because it will boom and it will create some other impact in the near future once it's developed properly. And to say that, for instance, Ronelli Rekenya, or from Benke, she is a fashion designer, and she quickly moved to making masks at the start of the pandemic, and now she is back to creating dresses. So it just shows that every area has something that they could do during this COVID-19 pandemic.
Yes.
As for Carnival and September celebration,
yes,
we have met as a committee and decided, well, we have tossed around some ideas on it. We're very much concerned about our responsibilities. We have to be responsible enough to not promote any activity during this time, because we're uncertain of what August 15th would be bringing in front of us. We do not want to be the ones to be spreading COVID-19. And this involves all municipalities and other included, that we're very much concerned about the spread of COVID-19. However, we're just waiting on the government to give us some updates from their end and see which way we would be going. We have a plan A and a plan B,
Oh,
and, and we're not based on the discussion. Many of us believe that we may be able to do some of the activities virtually, but this is not a confirmed decision. This is not a decision that has been one that all have agreed to yet. We're still in discussions. Tomorrow, the executive team of the National Celebrations Commission will be meeting to discuss the teams. We had a call for teams. We've received over 372 teams. So we would need to go through that and select a team.
wow. 372?
Yes.
All right. So effectively, it's still under discussion and we don't have a definitive direction just yet.
Yeah.
All right, good. Ronaldo, a social media question. I think you have touched on it, but let me just, since it was put up on social media, I think it would be nice to still, as a promoter, have you considered options to provide virtual entertainment to Belizeans in the foreseeable future? Maybe pay-per-view to see A-class artists live?
There's a virtual series that's coming up that's going to be launched on August 8th. The first one is on August 8th. The second one is on August 15th. It's not going to feature any international artists. It's going to be solely featuring local artists, embracing the culture of Belize, so to speak. That one launches on August 8th, the first episode, and then the second episode is on August 15th. Both these things are also going to feature a live component, but limited persons will be allowed to attend. In the case of the one on August 15th, that's going to be at a resort. So you're going to have to book at the resort to be able to attend the actual live event. But the whole concept of it, there's going to be a lot of footage that's shot in advance, and then the actual event itself, all of this will be packaged up, and then there's going to be the live stream. But then these are also going to be shared online and available on the Apple, the iTunes store. It's going to be available on Amazon and a couple of the other platforms. So there is one that's coming up that I know of, and I believe the pre-flyer is going to be launched, if not tomorrow, by Wednesday of this week. So there is something very big where it concerns Belize and Belizean artists that is in the works, and it's going to be coming up pretty shortly here.
All right, thank you. Andre, do you have any suggestion on any point, anything that you think need to be done within the sector, whether it is one to get government to do something or whether it is to get private sector to do something to help us to see the huge potential of this industry in Belize or to Belize? Is there anything you think that you can single out to say, well, maybe we ought to do such and such?
I don't think the issue is that we do not see the potential. I think the issue is that we have opted to put our focus on what we already know work. Like right now, we see a lot of people suffering tremendously with the loss of the tourism industry, because for an extended period of time, we have known tourism has worked. The numbers increase every year. Our product is great, and that has been our focus. So we have not tried to exploit potential in other areas, and the creative industries are obviously prime example among them. So right now with this situation, I think that Mr. Malik touched on it earlier. We have this crisis where businesses are suffering. We are accessing some financing and we are using it to try to revive some of those businesses. I think the moment is opportune for us to look at the industries that we have not tried to tap into, such as the creative industries, and make the investment from a public sector perspective. I think that creatives can be supported with public infrastructure, the same way we try to develop athletes by building these beautiful stadiums and fields across the country.
Yeah.
Perhaps we can have public recording studios for our upcoming musicians to be able to put together product at a better quality. When it comes to the modern designers, we can have public sewing spaces for writers, quiet spaces with the necessary infrastructure to have them to be able to focus and truly hone their craft.
Yeah.
So for me, it's not a matter of not seeing the potential, but traditionally not having the need to aggressively pursue those potentials. And so right now, hopefully, with all the exigencies and urgencies, we give it a shot.
All right, good. Well, that is it for our question and answer time for today. As usual, our time has come and gone very quickly. But before I wrap up tonight's show, I would like to give each of you an opportunity to leave us with a 30-second parting shot. So, I'm going to leave Miss Sapna for last. Reynaldo.
Okay, real quick. My appeal is to Belizean artists, my Belizean brothers and sisters. Take advantage of the opportunity. Reach out to people who will genuinely help you. I think Andre will vouch for myself and several others that we will give you knowledge and point you in the right direction as much as possible. But take advantage of the opportunity that is in front of us. Don't sit back and feel like things are going to return to normal. It is, but the question is going to be, when is that normal going to return? And that's no one can answer the question for you right now. So take advantage of the opportunity that is in front of you guys, and do what you can to digitally market yourselves and place yourselves a notch or two above.
Amen. All right, Mr. Andre.
Similar to Mr. Malik, my appeal would be to creatives directly. I am of the belief that if your product is really good, people will seek you out and support you, no matter the circumstances. So I wouldn't be defeated and say that I need help. I would try to do what is in my control to improve my product. If you're an aspiring musician and you don't have access to a studio, then you need to do your research to find out the best app to record your music on your phone. If you enjoy writing and you don't want to study at the university to get your degree in English, then you need to seek out the apps that can help you edit your writing and the free online resources that are available. So really, my advice is simply to not feel defeated. You have to take control of what is in your hands and do the best with what is in your reach.
Excellent, thank you. They always say success is how you handle and manage what you have available to you. Ms. Sapna, your turn.
I have a huge list of appeal. I don't know if I could take 30 seconds, but let's see how good I could do this.
No, Sapna.
One, I think we all need to support each other, support our artists, support the publications that are made. I would make a recommendation, follow Miss Bev Marin. She is part of the 501 Spoken Word. Their poetry every week or every month, and she also shows all the books that have been published. Some of these books are available online and on the shelf. So I would suggest and request that all Belizeans and international and the diaspora support all Belizeans at home, through the diaspora or through here at home. Not only the publications, but also music. Nello Player, Super G, Kukuna Boy, they have all produced music during this time and music videos. Support your local artists so that they can grow. We need that support so that people out there know who represents Belize. And if we ourselves don't support them, then no one else would. Junimar has been very active as a studio, music studio in creating music and in assisting many of the artists, including the X-Band. I would also like to make an appeal to like I mentioned earlier, and I wanted to ask Mr. Duncan to take off his hat as the host and to answer the question as a financial institution, how much careful you are towards entrepreneurship and creative industry. If you go back and reflect on that, you will see it's like maybe 1% or 0.001%. And that's a reality. Many of the financial institution, credit unions lend to for mortgages and for individuals who already have a job and not for the risk takers, which are the entrepreneurs and the creative industry. And I would also like to take off my government hat and wear another hat, which I would suggest that incentives need to be made for private organizations to invest into this industry. Andrea had alluded to public spaces, but some of these spaces can be made by private investors if they have some incentive that they get back from the country. So I think I wrapped up and I spoke on behalf of everybody that I've spoken to. Sorry if I offended anybody, and Mr. Duncan, you're lucky you're not on the panel because I would have been hitting you with some major questions. Keep on doing your work and aim for the best.
Oh, thank you very much, Sam. I'm glad I'm just a humble host tonight. Thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for your time tonight. It was a pleasure having you all. And viewers, on that note, we go for our final commercial break for tonight, and we'll be right back with a wrap-up. Besides employment for creatives or the production of cultural goods, we have seen across the world that the creative industries also play an important role in driving and facilitating the process of change across the entire economy. We have heard tonight from our panelists the importance of this sector. It's a growing sector, it's a budding sector. And we've heard the call from Ms. Sapna Budrani that she needs other players to get into it and to help to finance. And I suspect she's been talking to the financial institutions to be able to finance this industry. We've also heard from Mr. Malik and Mr. Pitts that in fact there are things that can be done now, and we don't need to wait and sit down and twiddle our thumbs, when in fact we can do things now to help the industry to do some things ourselves. A very practical and pragmatic approach to the situation. There's an area that did not come out tonight, but I'm sure we all recognize the role the creatives play to our own health, to our own state of being, our own mental space, where on weekends we can unwind before we go back to a busy work week the following week. There are so many things we can do using it, whether it's going to a theater, whether it's going to whatever, to just unwind and relax. It's so important. It's such an important part of our lives that we need to pay a little more attention to it. So, viewers, I want to thank you again for joining me tonight. We have come to the end of our series. And in fact, you have heard us speak about technology, the economy, tourism, education, energy. And tonight we've ended up with the creative industries. I do want to thank you for spending the time with us. And please do enjoy the rest of your night and the remainder of your week. Take care.